looking downfield, launching downfield, going for it all. It is close. Bears win. Charles Bears kill. A big play and a stiff arm. George Kittle. Flag fly. And Manning's going to hit one. There's a flag. Back to
Ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, welcome to Monday Night Mock Draft with Evan, right here on the Fantasy Football Network, coming to you every Monday evening until week 1 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Sather. Tonight, my guest is a Chicago fantasy football legend. He is a co-host of the Trade Addicts podcast. You know him best as Frank in the chat. Please welcome to the show, Frank Neal. Frank, great to have you finally with us. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm good, man. Legend is a very strong word for me, but I appreciate the kind words. And man, watching that video at the start, the intro video, it gets you ready for football every week. So I appreciate you having me.
This offseason has gone by so fast, but never before have I ever looked more forward to a new Bears season with, sad to see DJ Moore go, unfortunately, but, getting up there in age, and I think we squeezed as much as we could out of his prime before moving forward with more of Ben Johnson's guys that he genuinely wants on the offense, and I think I'm so looking forward to it. We got to really show the NFC North who's boss still.
Yep, absolutely. And it works for everyone, right? DJ gets a new start with a good team, and we didn't send him to like the Raiders, right? He's going to Buffalo. He's gonna have some fun. I think it worked out for everybody.
Not sure if any Buffalo Bills fans have tuned into this show yet, but trust us when we say you got yourself a damn good wide receiver to 100%. be better than Khalil Shakir, hopefully.
I like Khalil Shakir. I think he couldn't ever do it as a 1. I think he's going to be great as a 2, though. I think now that he's got some help.
They got a bunch of 2s that could break out in that offense. Whoever's going to be behind DJ Moore, Bills are going to be just fine, no doubt.
Absolutely.
So, Frank, when I was a guest a couple of months ago on the Trade Addicts podcast, it was me, Rocky, and I forgot the other guy who joined. Yeah, it was Mark.
Yeah.
We had a great time mostly talking about the Jets in the episode that we did together, but it was unfortunate that we couldn't get you to join us as well. But I was really glad you guys had me on too. I don't tend to do a lot of audio only podcasts, which it takes some of the pressure off, but it's also has its fun factor to it too, where you just don't have to worry about how you look too. You just talking to the microphone.
Exactly. And I never want to care about how I look, so that's why I do audio. And YouTube is always a fun thing, and you get to rep your Scott Fishbowl 16 Star Fox shirt and all that stuff on screen, so everything's good.
Definitely, yeah. So tonight I put on my Mario Kart TV shirt, which
I love that.
Yeah, a friend of mine went to Nintendo World in New York City and picked it up for me. I haven't been to New York in 18 years. I've missed out on a lot that's changed since then. So I don't know. Maybe one day, one of these days, I'll make it out to a New York live draft. But it's probably going to be wishful thinking on my part, though. I mean, domestic travel is expensive, man.
It is. Yeah. And I spent a few years in New York. I lived there for about 7 or 8 years. And I have been plenty of times to that Legends place where they host SFB New York. So it's a fun place. Everyone should go check it out.
Those of you listening, if you're from the New York area or are planning on attending Scott Fishbowl live in New York, our very own Classic Mike Herrick is going to be there as well. So make sure you don't miss out on him. Go up to him, say hi. Great guy, very personable. Yep. He's not going to scare you away. He's a great guy.
I love that.
So, Frank, we're going to get into the scoring format for this year as well, just in case folks forgot. Just in case you've been under a rock for a little while, or maybe you're brand new to Scott Fishbowl as you tuned in, we have big bonuses this year in Scott Fishbowl 16, video game-like bonuses for passing, rushing, and receiving. 10 extra points for 20-plus yard receiving plays, which is going to put a lot more bonus, I guess we'll call it potential, for guys who are really good at catching the football, which includes running backs as well. And you never know. I mean, if Caleb Williams catches another touchdown pass, you're going to be great in the Superflex slot. But just like last year, it's Ultraflex again, so it's going to be either up to 2 Superflexes and 8 regular flexes, 10 starting, 10 bench. Just like Scott Fishbowl 9, I mean, Scott Fishbowl 15 also started the same people, but we had defensive bonuses, which didn't work out. But we don't need to talk about the past for much longer. We're living in the right now, and we're going to get this started again just in time for Scott Fishbowl Chicago coming up this coming Sunday. We'll get some good good practice with 6 days remaining.
Yes.
Frank, my friend, are you ready to get this started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. I'm going to click that start button. Fleshmo6, I really hope I'm saying your name correctly, kicking us off with Brock Bowers. Honestly, Frank, I think for a lot of divisions at Scott Fishbowl 16 Live, Chicago, I could see somebody like a Brock Bowers going first as well. I haven't gotten the chance to talk to a lot of people who already did their live drafts. Have you heard if tight ends are going 101?
So I haven't heard much about it. I know slow drafts started today, so there's been a lot of people posting who they're picking. I get it with Bowers, and I've been a tight end hater for a long time, and it's just I believe that tight end centers around positional scarcity, which as we've grown in this space hasn't become as much of a thing anymore, especially with all these ultra flex slots. So I get it with Bowers and McBride going early. It's just not something I'm probably going to do.
Yeah, I have the 112 anyway, so it's not something I could potentially do. But if I had the 101, I would highly consider it as well, considering the big tight end premium bonuses that we're getting this year. And it's probably a top 5 tight end you're going to want, whether it's a Bowers, a McBride, a Loveland, a Warren, and everybody else after that, maybe not so much. But I've also noticed that a lot more offenses in the NFL are starting to revolve their passing game around the tight end. Packers do it with Tucker Kraft. Bills do it with Dalton Kincaid. Colts are starting to do it with Tyler Warren too. Tight ends are difficult to come by with a great set of hands, but is this going to be the future for the NFL moving forward, Frank?
I think it's going to depend on the team, right? Because you brought up the Packers with Kraft, and, in my opinion, that's because the Packers don't have any good wide receivers, so they have to funnel through Kraft. But I think the future of kind of what this looks like is almost what the Bears are doing, right? You have 2 good wide receivers, and then you have a tight end that can kind of take over the middle of the field, or you can kind of move them around in different places. So I think tight end is going to be something that is going to continue to be prevalent, but I think it'll be something we get fooled on quite often. Like, I'm interested because you took him at 112. I'm a little scared we're just jumping right on the Loveland bandwagon after he had a good kind of second half of the season, but there's no track record, right? I feel like we're putting him right at tight end 3, which we did with Laporta 2 years ago, basically. And Laporta kind of came back to earth a little bit, and now he got hurt and all that. But I'm interested in your thoughts on, did we rush Loveland to 3?
Honestly, Frank, you've been making me, people, not just you, but a lot of people have been making me think about this as well. I need to update my ranking still, so I don't know exactly where I have Loveland for overall dynasty tight ends. But the fact that the Bears did take a couple of extra guys in this draft between Xavier Thomas at wide receiver in the 3rd round, and then Sam Roosh, I think I can't remember exactly what round we got him at, but
I think he was the very back end of the 3rd. I think he was one of the last picks of day 2.
Yes. That's correct. So I'll say as you're making it, so you went Jefferson. So what I will say too is that I think that if I know Ben Johnson properly, I think he's going to want to get the wide receivers involved more often than the tight ends. That was exactly what happened with the Detroit Lions, which is why that we saw Sam Laporta see a decrease in target share because that was just Ben Johnson's preference. We lost Olamide Zaccheaus in free agency, so I'm thinking Xavier Thomas is going to fill the Zaccheaus role, and then Cole Kmet is probably going to be a trade deadline guy because he's in the final year of his contract. So Sam Roosh is likely replacing Cole Kmet. So ultimately, I'm not as worried about Colston Loveland as I was with Sam Laporta, because when you saw what a dog Loveland was last year, getting a game-winning catch against the Cincinnati Bengals, which we blew the lead and then we just stole it from him at the very end, this guy is Mr. Dependable. I don't think he's going to be an every week 10 target tight end, but I think he's a true tight end one for sure.
Agreed. And I think Andrew, he went to auto. I think he is back though. I agree with that. And I struggle with kind of how all the Bears are going to come together, especially in fantasy this year. But I think it's going to be a fun offense. And I think, honestly, the people I'm most worried about, and I was listening to catch up on some of these. I was listening to your show last week where you talked about kind of Bieniemy leaving Chicago. I was wondering if that scares you about the running backs at all, because it's a really good running game coordinator, and he knows how to get the best out of the running backs.
Yeah, no, I'm not scared about that at all, because at the end of the day, it's going to be for the most part the same playbook by Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson is no Matt Nagy. The running backs are not just going to be doing draws up the middle all damn day long. We are going to have a competent 1-2 punch with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. Honestly, I actually sold Monangai in Dynasty in the middle of the season last year because I saw this as a 1-2 punch, but I don't think Monangai is ever going to be our top running back. I think he's very much a platoon back behind a guy that is going to be, I mean, whether or not it's Swift in the future, I think whoever replaces Swift in the future is going to be a lot more shiftier and better at catching passes than Monangai.
Yep. Hopefully it's fellow Mizzou Tiger, Ahmad Hardy. That would be good. He's the next coming, so we'll have to see.
I have not been keeping up with the 27 rookies though. So, what have you heard out of the Mizzou senior class?
So all I really know is Hardy. Hardy probably could have come out this year. I think he waited to kind of, feel a little better in his kind of running style. He kind of runs right into the line unless there's a hole there. So. I think he's unbelievably talented, and he will absolutely be a first-round pick next year.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a matter of who grabs him, too, because in addition to running backs, it's looking like we're going to have another rich quarterback class as well. And it looks like the Jets, the Dolphins, it looks like those two teams especially are going to be competing for last place in their division, hoping to get Arch Manning or whoever the hell they're targeting.
Yes, absolutely. It seems like it. And Cleveland as well, I think, will be messing around with that, but who knows? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And speaking of interesting, I grabbed Malik Neighbors as my first wide receiver at 401. That's probably a little earlier than a lot of people are comfortable with Neighbors, being that he's probably not going to be ready for week 1. Frank, I've never been the type of guy to skip a guy just because they're not ready for week 1. If they're coming back from injury and they plan on playing in the season, I draft him. What do you think about a guy like a Malik Neighbors in his situation? Should he be falling further than where I grabbed him?
Yeah, I think it's tough in this format specifically because you have the head-to-head and the median scoring. So if you have like the first 3 or 4, I think Neighbors is going on PUP to start. I would be shocked if he doesn't. If you have someone missing kind of the first 4 weeks of the season, you could be 0-8 really quickly in this, and the season gets over pretty fast. But normally I don't mind injuries. I think, especially in Dynasty, which what I focus on, Neighbors is only 23. He's a young player. He's got plenty of time. Obviously, this news is not great. We went from he's walking around with a cane to Harbaugh saying he's coming back to Harbaugh saying he might not come back so fast. I think it's a scary situation, but overall I am confident in Neighbors in the long term.
Even if Neighbors was healthy, even if it was like a contract situation, I've seen the same scare where a lot of people are just outright avoiding these clear wide receiver ones just because that happened a couple of seasons ago with Jamar Chase, where everybody was scared he was going to hold out. I grabbed Jamar Chase in 2 leagues, and boy, did I dominate with him. But Malik Neighbors' situation is probably going to be different here, being that he is coming off of a killer knee injury that is definitely, I would not be surprised to see him not ready for week 1. But yeah, if he ends up on the pup, he's not going to be there for the first 4 weeks. But I guess my philosophy is a little different. I don't believe that missing out on a stud like a Neighbors, especially in Scott Fishbowl, is going to kill your season. I mean, you're not going to, you're not likely to go 0-8 unless your team is absolute trash.
Agreed. Yeah.
But sometimes there's also that luck factor where you just have those weeks where guys just don't outscore the other guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's interesting, and it is about luck, because I spent early picks on like Nico Collins last year and the Texans fell apart, and it'll be one of those things that you just have to hope the Giants bring him back. The only thing that would scare me about Neighbors specifically is the Giants are not going for it right now. I think they want to see development. I think they want to see, are we competing for the playoffs? We don't necessarily have to be in it, because the NFC East is going to be kind of ridiculous this year. If you think about it, with the Cowboys are getting better on defense, the Eagles are going to come back, and Commanders are getting Daniels back. So I think my only worry with Neighbors specifically is, do they rush him back, or do they say, we're focusing on 27. We want to see some growth. We're going to get him on the field at some point.
Definitely. The Giants are definitely going to have to figure out who they want to be as a team with John Harbaugh in charge. Yeah. But with Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator, I've said this classic Mike over and over again, good luck, Giants fans. You're going to need that with their OC.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And it's very funny how he went back to Kansas City and just all the stink came off. And now he was a candidate again. I never understood it. I don't understand how people could stare at that and say, that's not Reed's offense, that's Nagy's offense.
There's no way that anybody's ever going to convince me that him or Matt Eberflus were good at their jobs. Like, I'm amazed they're even allowed to be a head coach at any level. But
absolutely.
But you mentioned Nico Collins a little bit earlier. I wanted to get to a point here. Kamikaze, I'm really liking his first 6 picks here.
Yeah, he just jacked my quarterback. I wanted Stafford Puka. I wanted a double stack, and he took Stafford right in front of me.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily care about stacking Devontae Adams with Matthew Stafford, but he grabbed some of my favorite wide receivers that I think are being overlooked between Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson, and even Ladd McConkey, for that matter, being that all the offenses are, people are viewing them with all kinds of different possibilities. Chargers are being viewed as too stacked. Wilson is being viewed negatively because he's a Jet, and then Nico Collins is being viewed negatively because C.J. Stroud has struggled to get rid of the football under pressure because the Texans' offensive line is complete ass. So, with this trio of wide receivers, whether it's Scott Fishbowl or not, Frank, are you thrilled with these 3 guys?
Absolutely. I think McConkey is actually the best of the 3 right now, just in terms of what we think we have. Like, we've fallen for these types of receivers like McConkey before, where they get these really big OCs and he's gonna have 1,800 yards because he has Herbert and McDaniel. But the Jets are so funny because it's a Jets thing, right? But Geno's not a bad quarterback. I think Geno is probably the best quarterback Garrett Wilson has had, and that's saying something. So I think it will be I like all 3, and I think Nico in the 3rd I think is fine.
I feel like Nico in the 3rd is a steal because he was going behind some studs that I think he can definitely do better than, which I think he's better than AJ Brown. Not necessarily better than I take that back. I think he's also better than Drake London as well. Justin Jefferson was inevitably going to take a hit because the Vikings passing offense just couldn't move the ball. And at the same time, Chris Olave went at the 3.8, which I think is interesting because I think people are starting to remember that, hey, Chris Olave is a stud when he's healthy. The concussions and the injuries are scaring people away. And now we're seeing Tyler Shuck being a good quarterback, NFL ready at age 26, and all of a sudden Olave quietly finishes PPR wide receiver 7 last season. So Olave going in the 3rd round, that's about right for where he belongs, right?
I think so. There's been some talks how he had like some surgery over the off season that make him worried that he didn't condition. But like, if that's your biggest worry right now, I think it's fine. The concussions scare me. Like back to college, I think he's had like 6, so he's been hitting the head a lot. But no, I think he's obviously the number 1 in this offense, and I think this offense is going to take a step forward. They added Achane, they added Tyson. I think it's a better offense than it was last year, and that only helps Olave.
Especially with the Travis Etienne signing. They got him locked in for 3 years with starter money. It was strange. Like, I was talking about this with Jeff Crisco a couple of weeks ago. Kamara was definitely informed that he wasn't going to be the guy anymore, but he just didn't want to get traded. He wanted to just stick with the...
He loves that house in New Orleans, apparently, because he's like, I'm going to retire if you trade me. So he doesn't want to leave. New Orleans is nice, though. I wouldn't want to leave either. So
I mean, I haven't been there myself, but I hope to make it down there someday.
Yeah.
Well, what did you do when you were down in New Orleans?
I was there for a wedding. So I didn't do anything. I followed an itinerary, but it's a fun place.
Okay, yeah. So I was going to say, like, if you had been there for Mardi Gras, which I'm sure would probably be a nightmare if you hate crowds.
Yep. Yeah, it's bad. Yep.
But yeah, I can only imagine what that's like, at least around, I don't know if you were in New Orleans proper for the wedding, but yeah, hopefully during a decent time of year when it's not so sticky.
Yes. Yes, don't go in Mardi Gras and don't go in the summer, and you'll be just fine.
But yeah, I'm thinking that the NASCAR ambassador money that Alvin Kamara is making, he's probably happy enough with just that, and he's like, I love the fans in New Orleans anyway. Screw it, I'll stick around.
I think this is where he wants to be, and I think if I do wonder if that scares off like a Green Bay, right? If they trade, a second for Kamara because Jacobs has his issues going on right now, does the risk of him retiring scare people away from wanting to trade for him?
Yeah, and so it was E-Man920 who grabbed Josh Jacobs at the 404. I don't think I would want to touch Jacobs anywhere near the first 4 rounds, much less the first 10 rounds, being that we don't know what's going to happen with his situation right now, but this is looking awfully similar to Ray Rice, where we don't even know if it was caught on camera. So being that he's being tried for a felony assault charge, which I believe was strangulation and suffocation, which... I'm no lawyer, but that doesn't typically happen if you're doing it in self-defense. That looks like an offensive move, which he's probably fucked with a capital H. If I'm not being, if I'm being not too upfront. So at this point, we don't know if the Packers are going to bother making a trade or if they're going to, if there's any value in a Marshawn Lloyd and Chris Brooks 1-2 punch. Packers fans that I know don't like those guys, but if they end up rolling with those two just because they don't want to trade for somebody more expensive, is that going to be value out of that Packers backfield?
I think it is. I think you're going to pull your hair out, though, trying to figure out which one it is, because I think, it's going to be a lot like when they had, was it Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, where they kept trading who had good weeks every week, and you sat Jones and he did well, or you started Williams and he didn't do well. And
then A.J. Dillon came along.
Right. And then you just are stuck trying to figure out who is going to be the back. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to sign or trade for someone. I don't see them going into the season with those two.
And if Alvin Kamara just flat out still refuses to get traded, why not a guy like a James Conner from the Cardinals? I mean, he's a guy that's not exactly in his prime anymore, but he could easily take 50 to 60% of the carries.
From the Cardinals. Yeah, or Benson from the Cardinals too. Same backfield.
Well, yeah, I'm not so sure about Trey Benson. I know a lot of people love Trey Benson's prospect profile, but I've never been a big fan of Trey Benson. I figured there's a reason they traded for Tyler Algier and drafted Jeremiah Love. They don't like Benson.
Yes. Yeah, no, I get that. And, Yeah, if it's just for the year, I would like Connor better. If they're trying to find their long-term fit, then you probably have to go younger than that.
Remains to be seen. There's still a lot that has yet to be revealed, but knowing the Packers, they will try to get a discount trade rather than signing somebody super expensive. But,
Absolutely.
Packers have surprised us before. Typically, their trades involve like a 7th-round pick for a punter.
Yeah, until they shocked the world and got Micah Parsons. But that was a Jerry Jones thing. That wasn't a Packers thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was such a fleece. That was such a fleece deal on paper that
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what Micah Parsons does when he heals up with the Packers, because the Cowboys defense was looking a little bit better when they moved their couple of guys that they gave up to. Who was it? It was Kenny Clark, and I think it was one other guy they moved.
They got Quinnen from the Jets, Quinnen Williams.
Oh, that's right. Yes. And they looked a little bit better, especially after having moved on from. Well, actually, they did have Matt Eberflus last year, and boy, did that go poor.
He's a curse on a lot of different people. He showed he couldn't be a head coach, and then they showed he couldn't be a defensive coordinator anymore. So it's a tough scene for him.
Yes, and so I'll tell you another guy who came back from the Dallas Cowboys back to the Chicago Bears, Jack Sanborn. He is finally back as one of our linebackers.
Yes.
He was definitely one of Eberflus's guys, but I hope he likes playing for Dennis Allen a hell of a lot better.
Me too, because I just loved him as as a locker room guy and a guy who was kind of always on the defense. I remember when they drafted him, he was playing like kickoff and was like outrunning everybody and out tackling everybody, and everyone loved him during the I think he was on the Hard Knocks show I think he was there when they were doing Hard Knocks. So I think he was just a fun guy to have around. So I'm glad he's back as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll have to see how well that Bears defense does, if they can actually prevent points from being scored, as opposed to relying on just takeaways. Which I'm not gonna be mad about the takeaways, because that's not luck, contrary to what a lot of bad fans believe.
Yes.
That's just making great plays when it counts the most.
It is.
That's clutch.
Yes, I agree with that.
So we're starting to get into the double-digit rounds here in this draft, and that's where a lot of guys that could have some value are still on the board. So we're looking at the Denver Broncos backfield between R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. They spent a 4th-round pick on his name is going to escape me. Jonah Coleman was their next running back draft pick. It's pretty obvious that Sean Payton hates fantasy football and doesn't want his running backs to be fantasy valuable. But in this Denver backfield, are we looking at a 3-headed monster at this point?
I just drafted Dobbins. I still think it's Dobbins, with Harvey doing kind of the Kamara. I called him Kamara last year and people got mad at me, so I'm going to be careful about that. But the Kamara role where it's kind of third down and he can do a couple of other things. I think Coleman is a next year thing. I like Jonah Coleman. I thought he was good at Washington. A lot of the people who he was one of those running backs who everyone was split on. They either had him as RB3 or RB13. It was weird. So I think he's a next year play with Harvey, and if Harvey stinks, then Coleman can take it all to himself. And but I think for this year it's probably still Dobbins, because they brought him back. They didn't have to, and he's still here, and I still think he's probably, when healthy, the most talented of the three.
Or if all of them stink, they'll just go back to the draft next year again, right?
Yep, exactly. That should be a Kamara trade spot if they all stink. If Denver needs a running back, that could be a Kamara call too. Play for Peyton again.
Yeah, and actually that makes way more sense to the Green Bay Packers, because Peyton already knows Kamara, and if the running backs are either hurt or they just stink, why not? He's an expiring contract anyway.
Agreed, completely. And I think it's a interesting dynamic. It's just going to be all depending on if Kamara decides he wants to leave, and if he does, I think there will be a lot of people calling. But I think he's had it out there that he doesn't want to go, and I think people are scared off by that.
Speaking of a running back who was also getting a lot of calls last year, Breece Hall. Boy, did he want off the Jets. I don't know how Aaron Glenn convinced him to stay on the gosh darn team, but he did it because the Chiefs were ready to offer a third-round pick just to get him, and the Jets did not want to let him go for a third, and rightfully so because the guy's immensely talented. I got Breece Hall at the 5-12. I think that's pretty much a steal for a guy like a Breece Hall. Again, I think the New York Jets tag is scaring a lot of people away, but with Breece Hall in a hopefully better offense this coming year with the Jets, in which they finally have Geno Smith, a competent veteran quarterback to throw the football. Surely we see another potentially top 10 season from Breece Hall?
I hope so. I'm a Breece Hall defender. I have been for a long time. I've had him in top 10 to 12 in Dynasty for a couple of years now, and that's aged like milk the last couple of years, but I'm not scared of Braylon Allen. I'm not scared of Isaiah Davis. They paid Breece Hall. He's going to stay. I like the offense. As you said, they're bringing in a better quarterback who can keep guys out of the box for Breece Hall. And by the way, can throw the ball to Breece Hall too, because people forget Breece Hall is a very good pass catcher for his position.
That's 100% right. He got 48 targets last year, which was a bit low, but he's seen as much as 95 targets when he was the RB2 in 2023. And he caught 76 of them for 591 yards, and 4 of them were touchdowns. This guy can absolutely move a little bit with the football. He's not going to average a first down, but sometimes all you need is just 5 quick yards on a check down when nobody's open, and that's perfect for a guy like Geno.
Absolutely. And This is an offense that is built for 27, I think. And I think if they can get the Sayan or the Arch or someone like that coming in to really be the next step, man, this team's built for that next step to be taken, because they have 3 wide receivers that are good. They have 2 tight ends that are good. They have Hall with a couple of running backs behind him, and a half, I would call it a half decent line. It still needs work, but it's a young offensive line that will continue to grow. So I think it's a really fun team for the long term.
Yeah, the Jets surprisingly don't have the worst offensive line in the NFL. It's actually halfway decent, despite the fact that it's also not great either. Like, Justin Fields still didn't have time to get rid of the football, even with that offensive line protecting him. Not as great as they could have been, being that when you only have Garrett Wilson to throw the football to, and your second read is not open, he's inevitably going to have to take off running for his life.
Correct.
But
last year wasn't on Justin Fields. I know a lot of people are going to put him in the dirt really fast, but that wasn't on Justin Fields.
No, I will defend Justin Fields on that one too. He's a better quarterback than people believe. He's been on just shitty, dysfunctional offenses his whole career. But now he's on the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is not going to be ready for week 1. Fields, I already see Justin Fields looking like $1 million in that Chiefs offense. Is he going to be feeding guys like Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and maybe even Xavier Worthy quite a lot of healthy passes? Because I know Fields loves targeting the tight end.
Yeah, I think he is, even when Mahomes comes back, I think he is going to be the gadget player, right? You can make him Taysom Hill in a much better scenario. And I think Reed is smart enough to know how to use Fields. I mean, shit, you can put him in the backfield next to Mahomes if you wanted to and really mess with people. So I think Fields will. I wouldn't like draft him as someone who's going to score a bunch every week, but I would draft him I would root for him as someone who I think is going to see a bit of a refurbishment on KC and hopefully get another shot.
Definitely, at least as long as Patrick Mahomes needs time to heal from his knee injury as well. I'm going to start grabbing my favorite valuable tight ends going into these next couple of rounds, which is going to be Juwan Jennings and Jalen Naylor. So Naylor signed a big contract to be presumably the wide receiver 1 on the Las Vegas Raiders, and Juwan Jennings is now presumably the wide receiver 3, who I think is going to end up becoming the wide receiver 2 in the Vikings offense, because I am not a Jordan Addison fan. I have made that clear, and I've gotten a lot of hate for it in YouTube Shorts as well when we've clipped these from episodes. So what do you think about these 2 wide receivers receivers, Frank, are we looking at sneaky value in these later rounds at wide receiver?
Yeah, I like both of those. I think Naylor has a better chance of being kind of that upside play more than Jennings, only because I think Jennings is going to have to earn his way a little bit more than Naylor is. Naylor's going against like Trey Tucker and Jack Besh, and Jennings is going against Jefferson. And I know some people don't like Addison as much, but Addison is still pretty entrenched in that offense for now. So I like where you got him. I wouldn't take him any earlier than that though. And I do think this could be another one of those wide receiver deals where they threw him a couple $1,000,000 for 1 year, and we're going to realize, hey, Juwan Jennings is actually pretty good because he kept getting disrespected in San Francisco, and I don't quite get why. Because even San Francisco didn't bring him back.
No, but I guess when you get a chance to sign Mike Evans, you're going to take Mike Evans over Juwan Jennings any day.
That's fair. That's fair.
But they also grabbed a couple of other guys that I've been very impressed with, like Christian Kirk is presumably going to be their wide receiver 3 behind Ricky Pearsall as well. I'm not so sure Ricky Pearsall is going to be a thing in the NFL, where I'm sure getting shot in his rookie season didn't help. But I have not really been that impressed with Pearsall out there on the field, where Mike Evans is going to be that veteran presence. Ayuk is pretty much as good as gone. I mean, he ain't coming back. But honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk becomes the wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And, you know, Brandon Ayuk is showing Antonio Brown how to do it. So it's crazy what he's doing. But I think Kirk is an interesting play. I think I would like Pearsall and Evans over him still. But I think definitely at this point, and someone just took Ayuk, by the way.
That was why I mentioned him.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the 49ers are going to be very hard to figure out, at least at first.
And it seems
I think you're going to have to kind of pick your guy.
Yeah, because it seems to me like that's what Tim Sones did over here at the 102, where he grabbed Ricky Pearsall and then went Brandon Ayuk. I'm not sure if that was intentional, where it's just a bit of a murky wide receiver room. But, I mean, it's going to be Mike Evans no matter what. But the second guy behind him, Ayuk is surely going to the Commanders at this point, if they can get him off the 49ers.
If they can get him off the 49ers, which it's been said that it would actually be like more expensive for the 49ers to move him than what he's currently doing, because they're not paying him anything because he's holding out. So I think it would actually be harder for them. But I think he will eventually be a Commander. He doesn't deserve to, because he's acting like a child, but he's going to get what he wants. And it's probably happy ever after, but I'm still taking guys like, I think Antonio Williams was on here. Yeah, he just went. I'm still taking guys like Antonio Williams with the thought that Brandon Ayuk will not be a Commander, and then I will change my mind as it happens.
I'm having such a difficult time grabbing a second guy, but fuck it. Let's grab Isaiah. Let's grab Isaiah Pacheco.
I took both Cardinals running backs because I don't know who else to take. It gets dark fast in these drafts.
Yeah, and fortunately at the live draft we only have to worry about the first 10 rounds, where the rest of it is just going to be a nice slow draft. I'm psyched with my
first 10. I'll take my first 10 right now, but it gets gross pretty fast in the back end.
So at the 16-1, I grabbed Isaiah Pacheco. I don't see Pacheco playing the David Montgomery role in a 1-2 punch behind Gibbs, because it's looking like Gibbs is going to be the bell cow in that offense. But I feel like Pacheco has a lot of sneaky value, maybe especially on the goal line, where Gibbs might get some touchdowns taken away from him. Do you see Pacheco being used in any way like David Montgomery was, or is he going to just carve out his own unique role?
I think it's somewhere in between. I love Pacheco. I've been a Pacheco guy. I think he's been beat up by this industry just a little too much, and I think people think he's just going to go and be, a handcuff, and we'll see what he is, and blah blah blah. I think Campbell loves the type of running that Pacheco does, and I If Gibbs goes down, he's a top 5 running back. So at the 16th round, yeah, all day. I took Pacheco in like every eliminator I had for Scott Fish eliminators, which is all best ball, because the downside is he's a kind of handcuff passing downs back, and upside is he's a top 5 running back because he's the number 1 on the Lions.
So you mentioned a point that I feel like there's a lot of people in fantasy football, what they like to do when drafting certain guys and the logic they use behind it, where they're like, if this guy gets injured, this guy's going to be worth $1 million, banking on injuries to happen before they even happen, even if they ever happen in a given season. That's at least my philosophy, is that players are not actually injured until they are. Where do you stand on the philosophy of trying to plan for injuries?
So where I am with that is I try to find players that, like, let's use Mike Washington, which I just took for example. Mike Washington could have standalone value without Genty getting hurt. He could be a passing downs back. He could be a goal line back, something along those lines, right? And this also applies to Pacheco, because Gibbs is going to catch the ball, but Pacheco could still get, short yardage stuff. They have standalone value where the upside on top of that is a top running back. And something that's kind of disappeared in the NFL over the years is the true blue handcuffs. And I think the good thing about the top, 5 running backs that are picked in these things, Robinson, Gibbs, Genty, Hampton, there's true blue handcuffs behind them. And I think, McCaffrey's a bit of a different animal for that, because they have like 17 running backs in San Francisco right now. But like Genty and Chase Brown and Taylor and Barkley, to an extent, there's handcuffs behind them. So do I draft handcuffs just for the sake of it? No. But guys like Pacheco, Mike Washington, you could even say Monangai. Like, Monangai's a bit of a tier above this, but people who have standalone value without people getting hurt is, I think, kind of the target.
For sure. And I grabbed a couple of extra guys that I think are going a little bit too low. We don't know what Kaytron Allen is going to offer in that Washington Commanders running back by committee, but I'm still seeing some hype for Cooper Kupp, and that he's going to have a fantasy relevant role in that offense, in which maybe Richard, who was the guy they traded for from the Saints? Why am I forgetting?
The Seahawks? Rashid Shaheed.
Rashid Shaheed, yeah. So there's some reports that are saying that Kupp is in line to reprise a key role behind Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I'm not sure what they're necessarily planning, but with Shaheed and Kupp. But are you at all concerned with anybody in that Seahawks offense behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, or does it even matter?
I don't think it matters, because I think it's the same thought process as, the running backs we were talking about earlier, right? Barner could have 6 catches and 2 touchdowns one day, and then Kupp could have, 80 yards and a touchdown, or Shaheed could have a couple of deep balls that get him a bunch of points. I mean, there's nothing predictable about the Seahawks behind JSN, and the change in OC doesn't really do anything to change that for me.
I'm seeing NASCAR baller at the 3rd draft spot, starting to draft some veterans that, knowing how fantasy football goes, I could absolutely see Jerry Jeudy and Calvin Ridley just making us all look like fucking idiots, in which they all of a sudden become the top wide receivers in their respective offenses, and we look stupid because we wrote them off.
Watson and Jerry Jeudy are going to break our hearts and be good again.
Oh, God. After they just drafted 2 wide receivers, watch it be Jerry Jeudy again.
I know. It's awful.
And same thing for the Titans, between Cam Ward throwing to Calvin Ridley after they just drafted who I took at the 7-12, Carnell Tate.
Yeah. And they still have DK and Io Manor too. It's just the Titans are and Wandale. I mean, the Titans have more wide receivers in that room than they know what to do with. So I like Tate, and I was talking to someone who was doing a rookie draft today, about who I like of those 3 rookies, and it's funny. Tate was actually 3rd for me of them when the rookie draft was actually happening, but he's grown on me a lot just with all the camp stuff coming out about how much people like him. So, I think it'll be interesting. I like Tate the most. Ridley should be traded. Ridley doesn't fit this either. Like, the Titans have this big youth movement with a 32-year-old Calvin Ridley. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense, but that's kind of the way of football. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the NFL that doesn't make sense, such as hiring Matt Nagy to be an OC and Matt Eberflus as a DC. These things happen.
Yeah, it's true. And it drives fantasy players crazy.
So we're starting to finish off this mock draft here, and at this point, if it wasn't already obvious in the first several rounds, it's get your guys and hope for the best. I am, my favorite value pick in this later rounds here, JPEP20 grabbed Dontavian Wicks at the 1911. Now that it's official that A.J. Brown is a New England Patriot, it's going to be Devontae Smith, and I could absolutely see Devontae Wicks being the wide receiver 2, hoping that Mekhi Lemon develops and becomes the wide receiver 2, or possibly even the wide receiver 1 in that offense, depending on how well things go. I think a lot of people need to keep in mind that, yes, rookies are very attractive on paper, but they're also going to need some time to get acquainted with the NFL level, and you don't want to plan on banking on them until we get into the double-digit weeks in November and December.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's a few names there that are going to compete. They have Hollywood. They have Elijah Moore. Really?
Elijah Moore?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. He was signed like right before the draft, so it got buried in all the draft news. But and they have Stowers, by the way, and Stowers is going to be someone who I think moves around the field and plays and tries to get on the field pretty early. So I like Wicks the most of that pile is what I'll call it. But I think it'll be hard for him to stand out without some big performance at the start. I think he's going to have to show it pretty quickly.
While we're on the topic of the Eagles, I got to give props to E-Man920. He took both Dallas Goedert and Eli Stowers, which I think is absolutely brilliant in a format like this, in which, yes, tight ends are going to need time to get used to the NFL, but if Stowers' athleticism and great route running kicks in right away, he could see some valuable targets that get taken away from Dallas Goedert, and I think this is brilliant.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you're on the same page as me, but I don't know. I don't know if Stowers necessarily clicks with Jalen Hurts right away, but have you heard anything out of the Eagles camp that says otherwise?
Not really. The Eagles are doing their typical thing where everyone hates everybody right now. CJ Gardner-Johnson was like crapping on Saquon 2 days ago and saying like everyone's leaving because of you, and everyone's saying they're going to get rid of Hurts in 2 years, and A.J. Brown was the one leaking stuff to the it's just all they're doing their typical summer thing. So there hasn't been a lot of positive coming out of Eagles right now. But I think he will play. I think he's talented enough. He was very good at Vanderbilt, and I think he will absolutely be someone who shows himself pretty early.
So as we go over how this draft went, I think everybody drafted brilliantly to different extents, but I also change my approach every single week just to see what I can get when I decide to go for this position early or this position later. I went a lot more wide receiver heavy than I have in previous weeks, but it looks like everybody here got really good variety, getting their guys early, getting their guys late. So, Frank, let's take a look at your team here before we get into everybody else's. I'm laughing
because I subconsciously didn't draft a tight end. I didn't even mean to do that. After saying I don't like tight ends, I didn't even mean to do it that way.
We'll get into that in a moment here, but just reviewing your team. I think you went pretty strong with Puka and Jefferson to kick off the 1-2. I think Justin Jefferson is going to surprise a lot of people this year. Yep. Ken Walker is the guy in Kansas City. He's got nobody behind him. Hurts gets too much disrespect at quarterback, and he's got great rushing upside as well. Crazy. That's a nice stack with Devontae Smith. So I guess while we're on the topic of the Eagles, the Smith and Hurts stack is surely going to be one you're going to want to bank on this year with Sean Mannion as the OC, right?
Absolutely. And Mannion could be worse than everyone thinks he is, and he will still be better than Patullo. I don't think that offense could get worse than it did last year. So I think I'm buying the dip.
I think I have to agree with you. I don't see how they do any worse than they did last year. And the same thing with the Vikings. You also got the Kyler Murray and Justin Jefferson stack, which I also really like as well. So Kyler Murray being finally paid a lot of money to not play for the Cardinals and getting a 1-year discount to the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see if J.J. McCarthy even develops behind him. But Kyler Murray, is he finally going to start acting like an adult in the room now that he's got a stud wide receiver to throw to?
I think so, because I think Arizona did not have, they had Fitz at the very end, but Fitz was checked out. I don't think they had any adults in the room to keep Kyler's head on straight. I think Jefferson and even guys like Mason and Aaron Jones, and I don't want to say Addison because Addison's kind of a nozzle in his own right, but someone's going to grab him by the face mask and say, you need to play better. You need to wake up. You need to know this. And I think I don't think JJ is very good, but I do think that McCarthy will provide enough of a push behind Kyler to make him not feel like he's the only quarterback in the room.
Yeah, and if Kevin O'Connell's quarterback whisperer reputation has any merit to it, then this is a prime opportunity to get that back, because boy, did his quarterbacks look terrible last year, including Carson Wentz, who was just awful. And poor Max Brosmer wasn't even NFL ready either.
This is a lot closer to the offenses that Kyler plays in. He played at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley. He played in Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury. This is a more spread out the offense, multiple options for the quarterback where he can tuck it and run. He can throw short. He can throw long. I think this offense is, and I hate to just, because I get big into defending these people and it burns me, but I think we're right back to Kyler top 10 this year. I think we're sprinting towards that. So,
ooh, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, because Kyler Murray has put up a total of 4 top 10 seasons while he's played in the NFL. Out of the 7 that he's played, 4 of them were top 10. A lot of it was aided by rushing, because he can absolutely take off with the football and hurt you when you're not ready. He doesn't take as many sacks as you think, but at the same time, he has yet to have proof that he can play a full healthy season again like he did in 2024. He was coming off that foot injury that the Cardinals were definitely not rushing to get him back from. You could tell they were done when they weren't even rushing, but no pun intended with that part. So what numbers do you see Kyler Murray throwing this year? Does he get back to 20 touchdown passes with Justin Jefferson?
I think so. I think 20 is pretty easy for him to hit. I could see. So what's 30 is what, 2 a game, basically. So, 25, 30, I could see with call it around 5 to 10 rushing touchdowns, because he can do those little, play action rolls and just run right into the end zone. I think O'Connell will set up a lot of that for him. So, I like the Vikings line too. Darrisaw's back. I hate to be this much of a Vikings guy as a Bears fan, but the Vikings have always been kind of my guilty pleasure. I've always loved the Vikings ever since Jefferson came around. So, I think Darrisaw's back. I think the line got better and healthier. So I think this will be one of the better lines Kyler's had, by the way. So. Because Arizona's
Will Fries is there. Yeah,
there we go. So, I think we're right back to kind of top 12, top 10 for Kyler.
So the running back room is also another point of concern on the Minnesota Vikings, where Aaron Jones is getting up there in age. Jordan Mason can't exactly lead a backfield on his own. He has to be paired with a guy who can catch passes better, and Mason is not like a perfect goal line guy either. Does Kyler Murray by default end up their RB1 as well?
I think he could be their leading rusher. I don't think he will be their RB1. I think they're going to do some sort of like option offense where they can put Kyler in space or make people think about going after him. But I don't. It's so weird because Jones is old and getting up there in age, but he has those games where he just flashes that he's still Aaron Jones. So I think he's still a decent player, but it's hard to understand what they're going to be. And like Mason, as you said last year, Mason can't do it on his own. But and I know nothing about Claiborne, their rookie. So I wanted it. There was other people I wanted to go here, but they took this guy. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, Demen Claiborne ended up being, I think he was what was he, a 6 or 7? What was he?
He was day
pick?
3 for sure. Yep.
Yeah, 6th round, day 3 back. We've seen this before from the Minnesota Vikings where they turn out to be nothing and they get waived after a season anyway. So Claiborne, I would call a deep dynasty stash if you really have nobody else to stash. I'm not banking on him. And it's like what FF Rabbit Dad just said. Claiborne is a project.
Yeah.
There's a lot of running backs who fit this criteria too. Even Bashal Tutin, in a way, was a project running back as well. Fumbling issues. Not necessarily good at running up the middle, but running outside, kind of similar to DeAndre Swift. But we'll have to see how that turns out as well. He also says that Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are going to tandem a buttload of yards this year. I'm not so sure about that. I think they're going to struggle behind the offensive line, even with the better additions.
Yeah, I think Kyler's going to have to do a lot of this. I think he's going to have to show he can be a competent passer, and that will open up the run game for Jones and Mason.
Let's take a look at the rest of your team before we move on to the others as well. So, you grabbed Alec Pierce at the 9.5, which I really love for the bonus aspect. And then in addition to that, you can wait on Zach Charbonnet. You can bank on Connor getting traded. You can take a chance on Tyler Algier in case he gets a lot of backup yards behind Jeremiah Love. And Mike Washington, for that matter, being that you don't draft running backs that you don't intend to play. And Washington could see some easy PPR work behind Ashton Genty if they decide to get Washington involved in catching more passes, which could be great for the bonus yardage. And I see you took a lot of shots on some rookies like Omar Cooper and Zachariah Branch as well. So Cooper and Branch specifically, where do you see them in respective to the Jets and Falcons offenses?
So Branch, I think, is going to be the wide receiver too. I'm not scared of Dotson. I'm not scared of whoever else they have.
Zacchaeus went back.
Yeah, Zacchaeus went back. Who cares?
Yeah.
I think Branch is talented enough. Now he's a bit of a string bean. He's 5'10", 180. So he needs to stay healthy. But I think if you look at all those other wide receivers outside of London, there's nothing there. And
who even are those guys?
I know, right? Like, I haven't heard of Lamiki Brockington in. Oh, he's a rookie. Perfect. That's why I haven't heard of him.
Dynasty stash. Let's go.
Yeah, dynasty stash. Lamiki Brockington. But no, I think Branch has the most room to contribute. He was good at Georgia. He was good at USC. Obviously 2 pretty big time programs. So
yeah, these are giving me a lot of ideas to update my rookie rankings because it's been a long time since I touched mine. But I'll have to get back to it pretty soon now that we're in July. Watch Brockington become the next Eric Decker, right?
Yeah, perfect.
That's given me some good thoughts about the Falcons offense and that Branch probably is going to end up the wide receiver too by default, even if he's like the 3rd or 4th pass catcher in the offense, which you're not going to hate it as a late round stash.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I took Butte is because he's being rumored for trades and maybe he gets traded somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, A.J. Brown being in front of him surely doesn't help his...
and Dubs. There's 2 wide receivers in front of him now.
Yes, Romeo Dobbs too. Yeah, that's another huge get. So Romeo Dobbs actually is another one of my favorite late round stashes. I don't remember who took him. It's a NASCAR baller took him at the 11-3.
Oh, good draft for him.
Romeo Dobbs appears to be my favorite late round stash, being that he appears to be the red zone guy that the Patriots were very badly desperate to grab. So I think Dobbs is going to be stealing a lot of touchdowns from people this year. Do you see that as well?
I think it will be more consolidated this year. Like last year, Kyle Williams had 2 touchdowns. Demario Douglas had 3. Hunter Henry had 5. Insert tight end here had 3. It was just like, I think it'll be more consolidated with Dobbs and Brown. I think they will be, 8 to 10 touchdowns each, and then May will sprinkle whatever's left, because keep in mind the Patriots schedule will be tremendously harder than it was last year. They had the easiest schedule in the NFL, and now I think they're like top 5 and hardest. So I do think Dobbs will be good in the goal line. It would not scare me for A.J. Brown at all. It would scare me for guys like Hunter Henry more.
That part.
Yeah, it would scare me more for Hunter Henry and like Stevenson even a little bit.
Same. So we're starting to run low on time here, Frank. I'll ask you my final question, which I like to ask out of a lot of just about all of my guests when there's time. Whose team did you like best across all 12 of us?
I liked my first 10 and then I tanked it. I'm happy that I don't have to do all 18 live. Trying to scroll through very quickly. I like Peps with Henry, Etienne. If Rice plays, he's good. I like NASCAR's a lot. It's probably NASCAR's if I could change 2 things. I would have done Wandale instead of Tyson, because I think Tyson at 7. I know he's talented. I know he's a first-round pick. Tyson shouldn't be going in the 7th round of any draft. I'm sorry. And I would have done like Pierce instead of Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren. That's right. I like Warren, but he's going to share a lot. And I don't like how much hype Caleb Johnson's getting. That feels like that backfield's going to be a mess.
Yeah, I think so too. Caleb Johnson will get one more shot, and if he can't prove his worth on special teams, then, well, he's just going to be pretty much a guy that they'll consider releasing after this year. I spent a first-round pick on Caleb Johnson last year in my home rookie draft. Yep, so you know my pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's fun having your first-round dynasty pick sit on taxi all year. It's just an awful feeling. I agree with Rabbit, by the way. I like 106 too. I don't love Kyron as much as others, but I like 106. Taylor. You get a monster Colt stack. You get Taylor, Warren, Jones.
That's too many Colts to my liking.
Probably too many Colts, but it's a big stack. I like Kraft at the 6.
Same.
I probably would have taken Kraft over Javonte if he was sitting there. But no, I like Hawks' team as well. I like you can make a case for any of these, but it's probably NASCAR Hawks, honestly.
For sure. I thought everybody did a great job tonight, too. I mean, I like to think we all do a great job every single week. But before we start to get out of here, shout out Tim Sones for taking Josh Gordon at the 2011. That's a great final round.
What about the
pick.
guy who took Gronkowski?
Yes. Yeah, Beats by Dre. You don't let us down with that Gronk pick. You got to go with the 20th round Gronk pick, man. I love it, man. But we're going to start to wrap things up here. So, ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, thank you. Let me get this off of our screen here. There we go. I don't know why this is messed up here. Let's get us back here. Perfect. There we go. Sorry, folks. Ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, this has been another episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. One more time, I'd like to thank my guest, Frank in the chat, Frank Neal, for joining us this evening. You can find Frank on Bluesky at frankinthechat.bsky.social. You can also find him on Twitter at frankinthechat. Be sure to look up Trade Addicts Podcast on anywhere you prefer to get your podcast. Frank, do you have anything else to tell the people they should know about?
Go USA. That's it.
Go USA versus Belgium. I'm not as patriotic as other people, but if we win in soccer, that's going to be different for my liking. Oh, awesome, man. I got to get the game on too. Yep. So, folks, that's going to do it tonight. Be sure to tune in next week as well for the last Scott Fishbowl 16 mock draft that I'm going to do for the season before we move forward with the redraft mocks in the middle of July. Joining me for that one is going to be yet another Chicago legend, Pete Sandoval of the Sports Affiliation. Nice. Don't miss that one. Yeah. This has been Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan signing off. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you all next week. Take care.